Welcome back. I'm attorney Thomas Burton. I'm an estate planning and asset protection attorney here in Wisconsin, and I use this YouTube channel to educate and inform people so you can be more informed and take charge of your own estate planning. Today's topic is how to make a will during COVID-19. So all of us are living through this COVID-19 global pandemic right now, and I know there's a lot of concern about people's health, safety, and welfare, and really estate planning is all about getting peace of mind about these affairs by putting a plan in place both while you're alive and after you're gone. So today I want to talk about how you can make a will during COVID-19, and I'm going to talk about 3 methods, 2 that I recommend and 1 I don't necessarily recommend, and then we'll wrap up at the end about how you can get a plan in place today. So let's get right to it. We're going to use the help of my trusty legal pad here, and the first method, and this may not be a surprise to you, but the first method I'm going to recommend is that you work with an estate planning attorney. Okay, so whatever state you live in, you want to look for a licensed attorney in your state, and I recommend working with someone who focuses on estate planning, because estate planning involves the intersection of state law, federal tax law, and your state law as regards real property and estates. So you want someone who's skilled in all those areas, and for this reason I recommend working with someone who specializes in estate planning versus a general practitioner. They will be well informed about the laws in your state and used to working with lots of people. Now, the way to do it right now, in my opinion, is a remote meeting with your attorney. And that's what I've been doing with clients successfully during the pandemic, and even more in the recent months we've switched to all remote meetings for initial meetings. And at my office we can use a variety of methods. I've done Zoom meetings, I do Google Meet meetings, and they all work really well to get that face-to-face interaction. I like it because we get to talk to each other just like we were used to do sitting in the conference room, but there's no chance of the germ transmission. And I've noticed lately a lot more people are asking for the remote meetings because of concern about the virus. So I would look for an attorney who's capable of doing a remote meeting during this time, because that's going to be your best option to have the initial meeting where you discuss your situation and the questionnaire and what you want to do. Now, when we get to the signing, if you're working with an attorney, there's 2 options, and it's going to depend on your state, the requirements. But here in Wisconsin, in most states, you're going to need 2 witnesses to witness you sign your will. So that's where I put down here, you could sign your will outside. You get friends or neighbors to come over and watch you witness it. Could do it outside with masks on a clipboard. Real quickly, have it set up to go, and your attorney could help you with this. I help people. I put the sticky sign here. Or if you're comfortable, and depending on your attorney, you can go in and sign at their office, either outside, depending what state you're in with the weather, or inside with masks and social distancing. But there's a lot of ways attorneys are handling this during the crisis, so check with the one in your state that you're going to work with. I know at my office we've done them both ways. We do them in the conference room with masks, and we can also offer what we're calling a drive-through signing, where you stay in the car and we witness you do it through the glass of the car windshield or the side window. So most states, there's a requirement that you have to be in the conscious presence of the person signing the will, and that's what's important about the people being physically together. Now, there's a few states, I believe, that are out in front about maybe remote witnessing, but that's still rare with a will. But again, that's my number one recommendation. Work with an estate planning attorney who can do remote meetings with you. Now, number two, this option is if you don't have time to meet with an attorney, or you physically can't leave the house. Let's say you have COVID currently, or you don't have the means to hire an attorney at this time. See if your state has a basic statutory will. And I have an entire separate video on this for residents of Wisconsin called How to Make Your Own Will in Wisconsin for Free, or Basic Will. The legislature in Wisconsin has put a will right inside the statutes. It's a short, basic will, and there's a bunch of disclaimers about how it's generally best for very simple, small estates, not someone with a business or multiple marriages and things like that. So read through that if you're in Wisconsin. I'll put a link to that video in this video. Check it out, because I go through it in depth, and if you want to do that, you can actually do it with me. I walk you through it as if I'm filling one out for myself. But check your state, because a lot of people don't know about this. But some states are progressive, like Wisconsin, and they've put this right in the statutes for people to use. And in my opinion, using the will the legislature has written and said right in the statutes is valid is a very good way to ensure you have a valid will. Now, you still need to make sure you get it witnessed correctly, and I talk about that in that video with the 2 witnesses. But go to your whatever state you're in. You can Google the state statutes and just Google basic will, statutory will, basic will, and your state, and see if you can find something. Again, it's best for small estates, people with limited means. And the big downside here is there's no one to ask questions. Okay, so it is a form will, but when I was going through it, watch my other video, you'll see what I'm talking about when I walk you through the Wisconsin basic will. But actually, in some ways, it's more complicated. Well, it was more complicated than working with an attorney, because when you use this basic will, you have to make sure you fill out each box correctly. Whereas when I draft a will for someone, it's all typed, and all we do at the end is sign it, because I've already put it together the way they want it. So using the statutory will, you have to make sure you don't skip a step that they tell you right inside the statutes, okay? And because it's more of a fill-in-the-blank one, there are some important decisions in there. And that's why if you're going to do it, I would watch my video where I try to discuss those choices. And your state will could vary. But if you use that option, just make sure you follow the instructions very completely. But in my opinion, anyone could have a valid will in place in less than an hour, including the witnessing, maybe less than 30 minutes if you have the witnesses lined up and ready to go. The filling it out part should take a half hour or less. So I want to make people aware of that, because I don't think a lot of people know about that. In fact, I didn't even know this existed till I went to law school and was in my second or third year in Trust and Estates course, and found out we had one right there in the statutes in Wisconsin. So again, I recommend if you have more assets, you work with an attorney, because the thing that you don't get by doing it yourself is most people make 1 or 2 wills in their lifetime, and they don't know what questions to ask, what they might be missing. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like if you're a car mechanic and you work on cars all the time, you know what to look for. But if it's not your day job, you don't know what's wrong with your car, and you don't know where to start or what to look for. So that's where I do this often with people, and when they come in, they might say something to me, and I probe a little deeper to see what they really want to do, because some of the stuff isn't completely intuitive, and you think you're doing X and it actually means you're doing Y. So see if your state has the basic statutory will. And again, if you have limited means or need one in a super emergency rush, like I'm talking like, 24 hours or less, or you're trapped inside due to COVID and want something in place until you can meet with an attorney, that could be a good option. Now, third is the option I don't recommend, and that's the do-it-yourself online tools. And the reason I don't recommend is you have to make sure they comply with state law, and I know a lot of them say they do, but that's going to be on you to decide, is it really valid under my state's law? And again, the downside is there's no one to ask questions, and when filling these out, I see a lot of confusion after the fact. So I see people sometimes do these, but then they're in the lawyer forums afterwards asking a question about the will that makes me realize they don't really understand, unfortunately, what they did with the will. Or they still have so much confusion that, in my opinion, the online service still took some of their money to do it, right? It's not free. They paid money, they spent the time, they went through it, and they think they have it done, but then they're still posting questions about, will this be valid? Will my house avoid probate? Will my children get this or that? And unfortunately, I feel bad for them because while they did a good thing by putting something in place, I don't feel like they have the peace of mind at the end from knowing exactly what they have in place. So in my opinion, if you have assets, it's worth it to just pay a little money, get the time with the attorney, and get your questions answered. And from my perspective, if you use one of those other services, I can't vouch for that will. It's not covered by my insurance. I didn't draft it. It's very difficult for me to look at it afterwards and bless it, if you will. In fact, I'm unable to do that. So it's better to just go to the attorney to begin with, and then you didn't pay the online service that money and have the confusion. But that's an option out there. People, of course, are free to do what they will with it. Now, as a bonus, I'm getting to option 4, which in my opinion might be the best option in a lot of situations during this time, and that's to avoid probate completely. So what I see people a lot of confusion about actually is they will write something to the effect of, I made a will to avoid probate. And actually in Wisconsin and most states, a will by definition must go through probate. It's going to go through the probate court. You're going to have the probate court fees, the attorney's fees, the time, delay, and expense in Wisconsin, 6 months minimum to 2 years inherent in the probate court process. So while making a will is a good thing, and I think it's a positive, you can choose your own heirs, you can opt out of the state system that just says your closest living relatives get your money, you can choose your own personal representative, you can choose your own guardian, but it isn't actually a probate avoidance device at all. It only ensures you're going to go through the government probate system. So if you favor avoiding some of that, which a lot of my clients, when they come in, if they went through a probate, that's what they bring up when I say, why are you here today? They tell me, I dealt with mom or dad's probate or my aunt or uncle, and it was a huge mess, and there's, generally a long story about how difficult it was and confusing, and that's what they want to avoid, which I totally understand, and I sympathize with them for going through that, because the probate court process is just tons and tons of paperwork, and it doesn't make easy sense to anyone. It doesn't come to people intuitively. It's classic sort of example of when you think of government, lots of forms, you have to dot every I, cross every T, etc. So another option during this time that I think would work well for people, and here in Wisconsin actually can be a great option, is you could avoid probate completely by making a trust. And in Wisconsin, you can form a trust without witnesses. The state statutes do not require witnesses for a trust to be valid. So let's say you even are in that situation where you have COVID-19 right now. You could work with an attorney, have the trust drafted, sent over, and you sign it, and the trust is valid the date you sign it. Now, in normal times, I like to notarize trust signatures, and that's still a good idea in a lot of states. However, it doesn't mean the trust is not valid. So if you were going through a difficult health spell, we could get the trust in place, and let's say you recover from COVID, later you could go acknowledge your signature before a notary. And the great thing, I just had a client tell me banks are doing drive-through notaries right now. So he was a member of a credit union. A lot of the banks and credit unions have the lobbies closed, but they're totally set up with the tube where you just drive in, put your papers in the tube, they can see you through the window, and you can sign it, and you send it in, and they'll notarize it inside the window. So that, in my opinion, is a great option and a great way to get something notarized during this socially distancing period when a lot of places are closed. And we could do that at my office as well. If you work with me, we do the drive-through notary, where I just witness you do it through the car window. But even if your lawyer isn't nearby, like you're working with them remotely, it's likely there's a bank nearby where you could quickly go get the notarization done. But again, it's not even required to be legal in Wisconsin, so we could get the trust formed as soon as you sign it. And a lot of states follow this similar. Now check your state law. This is for Wisconsin, but a lot of states don't require the 2 witness requirements that a will requires. And that's the great part about and flexibility with a trust. So that's an option, and you could form a trust, put your assets all inside the trust, avoid probate completely, eliminating the need for a will. Now, in my normal trust plan, we usually do a will as a backup in case there's something you forget. But again, I'm saying during this COVID-19 pandemic, if you had a health situation, the odds are we get the trust in place, you could get that will witnessed later or on your own time frame, and it even becomes less important because it's what we call a pour-over will. The trust is the main vehicle, the will is just a backup. So the need to get together with the witnesses in person would decline significantly. Now finally, I want to mention the thing with the trust. The great thing is some states have a remote notary option. Wisconsin, I have another video on this. They adopted some emergency remote notarization. Actually, they had a statute set to go into effect this spring because the world is moving towards these remote notary options. In fact, Virginia has had remote notary for years, but Wisconsin passed a law where they're allowing it, but it's generally for real estate documents. It specifically excluded estate planning documents, unfortunately, at this point in time. And this law has been in the works for many months before they knew about the pandemic, so I'm hopeful they will adjust it in the future. But I have attorney friends in other states, and some states allow you to do a remote notary option for a trust or power of attorney for healthcare or other estate planning documents. And so you might even be able to do that depending what state you're in. Like, I know a lot of states have adopted emergency rules allowing it right now. In fact, I have a lawyer friend in Maryland who said they can do, there's a remote witnessing and notary option. So check with the lawyers in your state, because again, when it comes to wills, we had to follow state law about the place where you reside. But even if you don't have the remote notary, I am very confident you probably have a bank that would do the notary option through the drive-through, and that's a great option right now. So in summary, there's 3 methods to make a will I talked about today. The first 2 I recommend, the third one I generally don't recommend, but you all know it's out there. And then my bonus recommendation is you can form a trust, avoid probate completely, and we can eliminate the need to worry about a lot of those witness requirements, getting people in person face-to-face right now during COVID-19. So I wanted to create this video today to give you an overview of the options and what's going on out there. I know a lot of attorneys have moved to remote meetings. Some are slower than others, but I would strongly encourage you, if you are looking for an estate planning attorney, do some research ahead of time. Look on their website, email them, make sure they're set up to do the remote meetings before you start working with them if that's what you want. And in my opinion, the remote meetings work great, and it's a great way to get your plan started without the chance of any germ transmission between you or the attorney or the staff, and you still get your plan going in a timely manner. So if this video's been helpful to you, thank you for watching, tuning in. Consider giving it a like, a comment, or a share, and be sure to subscribe to my channel so you get updates when we post future videos like this one. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.